You can tell my age because you notice I don't really need this. And I don't have any overheads. And I got a handout. Y'all got these handouts? That's kind of like the old days, isn't it? That's great. The reason I have this handout, I have about 2.5 hours of material in my head. And in the handout, I've got it down to an hour, and I think I've got 20 minutes to share with you. So hopefully this will keep me on track, or what I don't share, you'll be able to take back and maybe use. But a couple people come up to me and said, Paul, you're not going to, you're a CPA and a financial planner, you're not going to share about budgeting, are you? And, I have this great talk on budgeting in retirement, but I kind of shelved that and got something really, what I think is really the crux of retirement, really what we're here for in the exciting time. We've heard a lot of, to be truthful, things we need to hear so far, but they can get kind of depressing, can't they? And yet, really, they're very important, because if we follow what we've heard today, it frees us up, guys, to really do what's important at this time in our life in ministry, okay? Well, I want to start with let's start with a little humor, okay, to kind of break all this. And most of you have heard these sayings before, but you might want to keep track of these and see how many of these apply to you. Okay, the old, you're getting old when? Okay? You're getting old when you wake up looking like your picture on your driver's license. Okay? It's a good way to do that. It takes you twice as long to look half as good. Here's one that's really bad. You try to straighten out the wrinkles in your socks and discover you aren't wearing any. Yeah, that's really bad, isn't it? You're at the breakfast table and you hear the snap, crackle, and pop, and you're not eating cereal. Okay, that's a real good sign that you're getting old. You're really determined and you give up the bad habits, and you still feel rotten. Okay? Your idea of weightlifting is getting out of the chair, and it takes you 2 attempts to do that also. And in fact, talking about the chair, the rocking chair gives you the same sensation or thrill as a roller coaster used to. And then your back goes out, but you stay home. And then last, your idea of a night out is sitting on the patio. Okay? So I think what we can all relate to some of those, and it does mean that we are getting old. I could talk a lot about finances, and particularly in regards to retirement, and it is important. But I want to focus today what I think is really important as we look forward to this thing called retirement, or our older years. And here's kind of none of this yet is on your handout, but I want to take this time to make these our goal, I think today here, is to make these remaining years, sometimes called retirement, meaningful for the kingdom, and in the process, experience real joy in this retirement. That's kind of my goal today. And I think I could summarize this with 2 convictions I have. Okay, the first one is, we have more to offer today to the kingdom than we ever did. Say that again. We have more to offer today to the kingdom than we ever did. We've been around here for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. We've seen a lot of heartache, trials, tribulations. A lot of us have been married 40 to 60 years. You talk about trials and tribulations. No, I'm sorry. But we've been married 40, 60 years. Some of us have gone through a divorce. We've raised kids, grandkids. We've made a lot of mistakes. One of the advantages of my practices over the years is I could see other people make mistakes and hopefully learn from them. We hopefully have more wisdom today. Although somebody the other day said, Paul, with age comes wisdom, but in your case, I think age came by itself. But most of us, I think there is wisdom that we have in our life, okay? And then more importantly, I believe we've grown spiritually. So when you think about all of that, guys, we've really got more to offer and to give today and be involved in God's ministry. And that leads to the second conviction I have here. And because of that, we may have the greatest ministry ahead of us. Okay, when you look at the Bible, except for Jesus and perhaps King David, most of the individuals, most of those people that are heroes of ours in the Bible really had their biggest impact. In fact, maybe what God was really called them to do was in their last years. I look back at my life and, 10, 12 years since I've turned 65, and I really believe that the Lord has used me and worked through me more these last 10 or 12 years than any other period in my life. And I look back and say, what if I had just kind of walked away from this whole thing of serving the Lord, of running the race, as Paul talks about. So, I think that should get us excited, folks, the fact that we're at this point in our life, and it's not just about some of the issues we talked about this morning. Yes, things are tough sometimes, and there's heartaches, and there's health issues, but folks, I believe this is a time that we can have the biggest impact in our life. Even this small group here today, Lord, today, folks, if we would really be committed to what God's called us to do, we could have a big impact, not only in this church, but the city, our kids, and everyone that we come in contact with. Paul, and the writer of Hebrews, which I think maybe what could have been Paul, compare our spiritual calling of God's plan for our lives as running a race. 4 times in the scripture, Paul talks about running this race, or 3 times plus the Hebrews. And Hebrews 12, 1-3, I really challenge you to read, to memorize verses 12, 1 through 3. But 12:1 says, therefore, referring to chapter 11, of course, those great saints, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders. We've got a lot of things in our life that hinder us, don't we? And the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance. That's what it's going to take, folks. The race marked out for us. So each one of us are in a race, okay? God's got a plan and a purpose. We can have put other names to it, but we all have a race. We all have a purpose, folks. And I know that race does not end when we're 62 or 65 or when we quit or retire, whatever it is. I think in some ways it could really begin. The Christian race is the only race that you should get stronger towards the end instead of weaker, because I think this is when God really wants to use us. Okay? And so we're going to come back and talk a little bit about this, but first, let's take a just quick look at this whole area of retirement, because I think if we can understand what the world's saying, we can sometimes as Christians get caught up in this and miss really what God wants for us. Now, before I get into that, when we talk about ministry today and God's calling in your life, I think we all recognize, and sometimes we can feel guilty, is a lot of times this race that we have before us, God's calling is we're taking care of our parents, cars a lot of time, perhaps our spouse, health issues in our lives, our children's life. So a lot of times what we would love to be doing and what we think our calling is really giving our life to other people. And so we don't need to feel guilty about that. That's our calling at that particular time, and we need to have joy as we do that. And those things too shall pass in most cases. And we'll still have plenty of opportunities to share and be involved in our race. Okay, so if you pick up your handout, I just want to talk quickly, I'm going through this very quickly, some myths that come with retirement. Well, first one is true happiness comes when you retire. You ever think that or hear people say that? In a recent poll, 60% of pre-retirement individuals felt that they're going to have real joy is going to be when they retire. And the second one, too, a life of ease. That's the ultimate retirement goal. 80% in that same poll said, this is what I think retirement really is. Again, folks, I believe as I'm older, I know I need to take more time off and do things and enjoy things, traveling and things that I couldn't do before, but I really believe that's should be my primary focus. Okay? Another one is 65 is old. You ever think that? This all really goes back to the Social Security Act in 1938 or 39, when the government were going to start Social Security. They had to determine when we're going to start Social Security. Well, in the late 30s, the life expectancy, folks, was age 62. So we got a smart government, and they say if we make it 65, we won't have to pay this out very much. Okay, and out of that, this whole idea of retirement, very few people, if any, retired prior to 1939. They worked till they died. Okay, they didn't have a lot of choices, but that was just kind of expected of them. Okay, so since then, this whole area of retirement has kind of come out of that, what the Social Security Act came up with, and we have that feeling that perhaps of retiring. Of course, you can retire Social Security as young as 62. Full retirement right now, I think, is age 67. So just realize where we're coming from there. The last two bullets there is the ones I want to really zero in. Being retired means you are not working or you don't have a ministry. Okay? In my case, my job allows me to exercise my gifts of discipleship. It's one of the reasons I'm still working. But pastors have said that a lot of times individuals that are very active in their church, when they retire from their work, their paying job, that they also retire from the ministry, from what they're doing. When really they should be what? Cranking it up. In fact, the encouraging part, there's about 25-30% that get involved more and they crank up and be involved more in ministry. And then the last one, the myth is you can't have any impact in life or ministry after 60. People have that. And yeah, that's why I started out to begin with. We really have more opportunity for impact at this time in our life. My wife Sandra and I had the privilege when we were in our 30s and 40s to be involved in a ministry, and we were surrounded by older couples in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s. And these couples were just on fire for the Lord. They were living what we are talking about here. And they really left a legacy and an example to my wife and I that I hope we can pass on down to our children. And that's one of the things we're talking about today is legacy. What legacy are we going to leave to our children? Okay? Well, there's some challenges. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on there that comes with retirement. It's a big adjustment. 41% in a survey said that retiring was the biggest adjustment they had to make in their life. Okay? It's a health issue. How many people you heard of that they retire and then a year or two they die? Again, many studies show that those that are actively involved in something, mostly other people, at age 70 have a 250% greater chance to live into their 80s. Okay? It's great for your health. That's the way God's made us. It's a great unknown. It's an unnatural idea. Okay? The concept runs contrary to the preservation of the human spirit. That's not the way God's made us, guys. There's a saying that boats are safest in the harbor, but boats are made to sail. And I think that's true with us. You know, I can be safer if I sit home in the rocking chair and really don't take any risk and get out and share with people whatever it may be that I'm called. But that's not the way I was made. That's not what God's plan for me was. You become bored, and then you become boring. You know, if I don't experience anything else, what do I share when I'm with people? The past and my health, right? If if your memories are greater than your dreams, you're finished. Really. If your memories are greater than your dreams, you're finished. And that's a lot of times what happens in our 60s. Okay, Chris, let me know. I can cut this off anytime I have to. Okay, next, retirement sounds good. There's no really retired person role models in the Bible. Now, as I said that, then I added this Acts 20:24, Paul talking. However, I consider my life worth nothing to me if only I may finish the race. Okay, he's talking about that race again. And to complete the task the Lord Jesus had given me, the task of testifying to the gospel of God's grace. That should be each one of our testimony. Okay? 2 Timothy 4:7. Have that in my office. I fought the good fight. I've finished the course. I've kept the faith. That should be our testimony, folks. Well, what am I living? Two questions I think we need to ask ourselves to prepare there. What am I living for? What is my purpose? I'm not going to go through that. It has to do with our sense of dissatisfaction, desire to serve others, and a sense of calling. And then second, what do you want your last great work of life to be? Think about that. Is it playing golf, tennis, traveling all the time, collecting seashells, playing bingo? Nothing wrong with those things. In fact, I find I need to do more of those things and need to take more time for those things. But I think Howie Hendricks said it the best in that little statement I have there. Picture yourself before the Creator as you give an account at the great day of judgment. Lord, Lord, see my shells, my postcards, my golf trophies. And what kind of a legacy are we going to leave to our children? What are they going to remember us by? Our great golf game, traveling. Again, all those things are important. We do those with our children. But what is a legacy we're really going to leave and want to leave? I think they're part of the two questions. I think John Piper said it best in his book of the same title. Don't buy it. Don't waste your life. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15:52, with all this going for us, my dear friends, stand your ground and don't hold back. Throw yourselves into the work of the Master, confident that nothing you do for him is a waste of time and effort. Kenneth Bowe, in one of his books, said, we know we're here for such a limited time. And during the span, our energies and focuses should be directed towards fitting in with God's plans in accomplishing his purposes. You might retire from a particular job when the 60s roll around, but it won't be to live a life of ease. It should be to rewire and serve God in a new capacity, activity, ministry, or vocation. Our attitude should be that in light of eternity, we have so little time and so much to do. Then I have some questions there, folks, that we need to ask ourselves as we rewire. The key one there, I think, is what is my burning passion? Okay, this is a lot of times in our jobs, we don't really get an opportunity to use our gifts and talents. And we really don't like our jobs a lot of times. Well, as we retire, folks, we have that freedom to find out where's my gifts, my talents. We have, Jimmy has a seminar on that from time to time, to find those gifts and talents, and we can really put everything into that, maybe for the first time in our life. Okay, and that's where the joy is, and that's where we're going to live longer, because we're involved with what God has. Okay, 3 commitments to make in these remaining years that I came up. First of all, we need to believe that the best is ahead. I kind of covered that. Really believe in your mind, folks. It's not behind me. It could be ahead of me. But there's things that I have to do, some commitments I need to make. We have a limited time. Steve Farr said, we need to believe, I think that's under there, we need to believe that all the past of our life has been only preparation for all that is still in the future. Thus, we should not be content with status quo. That's the problem sometimes. We say, I've been a Christian 67 years, been to church all the time, been through the Bible 20 times, et cetera, et cetera. I'm kind of old now, and I don't really need to have that anymore. I'm just going to kind of coast. It won't work, guys. It really won't. We should be choosing to invest whatever is required to meet the potential of our divine calling in life, and it may not be comfortable. And in 1 Thessalonians, we kind of took this as our office verse. What is my hope or joy or crown of rejoicing in the presence of the Lord Jesus is coming? My glory and joy is a people whose lives I have had a privilege to have a ministry. Number 2, this may be the time to stop accumulating wealth and start investing in eternity. Okay? If we really believe God owns it all, it's his, right? We need to ask the question, what does he want me to do? Is God bless me so that I can increase my lifestyle, or I can be a conduit for his ministry? I know some crazy people, stupid people. They want to give all their money away before they die. Isn't that crazy? And I have some of them that do that. Now, we're smart, and we have enough, to kind of take care with needs. But you know what? They can't do it. Seems like the more they give it away, the more God just kind of blesses them. Because he's looking for conduits that he can bless. And I don't think that's just our money either, folks. I think it's our time. In fact, sometimes I find it's easier for me to give my money than my time and gifts and talents. Okay? I wish I could spend a couple hours just on this whole area. Matthew 6:19-20, do not store up for treasures on earth. Matthew 19:28-29, I believe, God talks about Christ talks about everything you leave and give away, there's you're returned 100%, or no, 100 times, which really is a 10% return. Okay? I'd like to manage your money, folks, but I can't give you no 10% return, guaranteed for eternity. Okay? That's one you need to really look at. I have down there, I'd like to spend some time on giving to children. 80% of inheritance, folks, are gone within 2 years. I find leaving large inheritances, it may be anywhere from $10,000 to, like people know 15, 20 million to their children. I would say 99% of leaving excess wealth to your children turns out to be a curse rather than a blessing. Never fails. I'd love to talk to you about that sometime. Okay? How much is enough? Matthew 6:24, no one can serve two masters. Either will hate the one and love the other. He will be devoted to one, despise the other. And here's a real key statement, folks. You can't. It doesn't say it's hard or tough. It says you can't serve God and money. And the third last, we need to have a commitment to finish strong. Just something that's not going to happen, folks. We need to really be committed to it. There's 2,900 individuals mentioned in the Bible. Of that, we have enough information for about 100 to determine how they finished. Of that 100, we have enough information. You know how many of them finished strong? 1/3. A lot of them are heroes. 1/3 finished strong. So that, we need to take exceptional measures to finish strong. What does it take? It takes exceptional measures. It takes endurance. Hebrews 12:1 says we need to run with perseverance. We need to eliminate all other options, things that are in our way. We need to have a vision for how we can finish. And then I have some down here, some successful transitions in your life. The one I want to look at here is the number 3 there, under you begin the transition. Partner with those people who can help you articulate and achieve your goals. And here's a statement I really believe in, folks. You can't finish strong alone. Okay? No exceptions, guys. This is why small groups are important. This is why having a buddy, and this is particularly for us men, I think, is to have someone that walks alongside you. But even more important than that, guys, is Christ in our life. I read the first verse of Hebrews 12:1-3. Let me read all those in closing. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great crowd of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Now here's number 2. Here's verse 2. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him. I always wonder, why did Christ have joy looking forward to the cross? Because that's what he was called to do. We're going to have joy when we're doing what God's calling us to do. We're running the race that he wants us to run. For the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning the shame, and sat down on the right hand throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men. Why? So you will not grow weary and lose heart. So in conclusion there, folks, I won't really go over it. What is going to take for your life to be meaningful? Number 2, don't retire, rewire. Okay? 3, use your resources, time, money, gifts, talents. Number 4, do whatever it takes to finish strong. The latter part of that verse there from the Message, the second paragraph, Paul's saying, I don't know about you, but I'm running hard for the finish line. I'm giving it all I got. No sloppy living for me. I'm staying alert and in top condition. I'm not going to get caught napping, telling everybody else about it, and then missing out myself. Doesn't it get you excited, really, folks, that you can be in that position? So, and I have 1 Timothy 4:6-8, which have some of that up there, just great verse. That actually I got this in a little stickum on my will, because I know my kid's going to want interest in my will. And so I have this little stickum on that with that verse. You take over. Hopefully I live such a life, folks, that I can share this with my sons, and they'll say, yeah, Dad and Mom really did that. You take over. I'm about to die. My life is an offering unto God's altar. There's only one race worth running. I've run right hard to the finish, about leaved all the way, and that's life. And all that's left now is shouting God's applause. Well done, Paul. Depend on it. He's an honest judge. He'll do right, not only for me, but everyone eager for his coming. Okay, guys, let's finish the race and finish it strong. Thank you for your time.